You ever heard of that saying of trying to put a square block through a round hole, or however it goes? Well, today we're talking about the living embodiment of this, dual PC streaming. Let's get into this video. I just realized that most of this video until about halfway through is being shot without my kicker light and my overhead light. Just FYI, lighting's got it terrible until about halfway through. Now, for some of you, you're gonna be extremely upset by me just saying that because you're probably a person who uses two PCs to stream. You have a gaming PC and a streaming PC. And you're probably thinking, wow, Brandon, what a great way to go ahead and say that this is just not a thing anymore. But I'm gonna be honest, I have spent the last 3 days trying to make this something that I could do and feel confident about and comfortable with. That's what this video is about. How viable could I make dual PC streaming and actually have it something that could replace my workflow after I experienced some very interesting problems? To get started, we're talking about computers, because this is kind of what it's all about, is dual PC streaming with computers, right? This is my main rig. This is a 14700K 64 gigabyte of RAM with an RTX 4080, and currently down there in the bottom is the AVerMedia Live Gamer Ultra 2.1 capture. Specifically, for one thing, we'll talk about that just in a second. This has been my main PC rig for a while now, and it's been kind of like multiple variations of getting it to this point, and this has been doing the job lovely. I've not really had any problems out of this system necessarily. The only big change of what happened with dual PC streaming is I swapped out the capture cards, which I'll talk about more in just a second, to be able to do what I'm doing right now. For the other computer, this is kind of just a streaming testing rig that I've just had in my room, and I've repurposed it specifically for this. This is actually a Ryzen 5 3600. There's a GTX 1660 Super, which has an NVENC encoder that's the same as like the 20 series. Still fine. I think it's what, the 8th gen or 7th gen NVENC. Anyway, the main star of the show is that Elgato capture card, the 4K Pro. Now, the 4K Pro is like one of the best capture cards on the market when it comes to forward-thinking compatibility, and I'm not the first person to say this. A bunch of creators have said this, but the reason why it's so good is because it supports even 4K 240 hertz pass-through, 1440p high, 1080p high, all of that through HDMI 2.1 technology. And my new monitor, this one right here, is a 3rd gen OLED from MSI, 4K 240 hertz QD OLED panel. I absolutely adore this panel. I think it is crazy good. It's the MSI 321 UPX, not the URX, because I didn't need the fast delivery or whatever, 90 watts. Same panel, same things, just cheaper with the same benefits of the other one. Anyway, that is a 4K 240 hertz panel. And so I said, when I was out on this venture, how do I keep the good things of this panel and to be able to do game capture to a streaming PC and make this work? Now, that's only one part of the problem, is capture cards and how this works. But as you might notice, I have a bunch of other technology to consider in this room, but I want to tackle things in little small bits. So we're first going to talk about capture, then we're going to talk about audio, and then we're going to talk about the other peripherals that make everything happen. Now, those of you who might be looking for like an in-depth tutorial on how this is done, that's not what's going to happen. I'm just explaining to you how I've got everything set up. However, I hope this is going to shed some light on some problems that you might run into. For me to make this thing work, I had to do some really weird stuff. So out of the capture PC, there is an HDMI out that goes out and over to the streaming PC, to the 4K Pro, and that is running at 4K 120 hertz. Specifically, that's going in, and I can see that inside this computer. I can't get it to do 4K 240 to pass through, and that's because this panel has display stream compression. Now, to achieve really high refresh rates and resolutions, sometimes you'll run into this, which is DSC. There was 2 ways that I could do this. 2. Run this nice, beautiful panel at 120 hertz HDR. I set up a second monitor out of this, which is the DisplayPort connection, which goes into this monitor, running this at 4K 240. Then what I do, the out of the capture card, which is technically the HDMI from the main computer, goes in to this monitor, and I clone the 2 displays so that the 2 are doing the exact same thing. However, I'm displaying 240 hertz on my main panel and 120 hertz that's on this computer here. And because they don't match, I now, you see HDR, I lose HDR. Now, some of you might be like, whoa, why does HDR matter? This panel is just breathtakingly good with HDR. It's really good with SDR content. Obviously, you can see that right now, but it's breathtakingly good with HDR. And so the compromise here was I either could drop refresh rate or do this cloning method to keep 240 hertz and only SDR. However, because it's only SDR and I can't adjust colors, I also can't adjust any kind of picture profile or Windows profile for color on here. So technically, even this is really oversaturated because I can't apply the actual color management profile from MSI to the panel to correct everything. And even I've adjusted it inside the settings, I still can't get it perfect. So there's even other things that for professional work, this is not something that I like. So then you're like, well, get over the 240 hertz, go to 120 hertz. Well, I tried that. I just did the out from the gaming PC to the capture card, and then I did the pass through to my main monitor, which worked until G-Sync turns on. And see, when G-Sync is turned on, my whole screen flickers. And when I'm talking about flicker, like it's not like a brightness flicker. No, because it's QD OLED, it does black screen flickering. So it's like displaying image and then it's shoot to black and then back immediately. And that's only with G-Sync enabled. And it's also, I can't run it at a 10-bit panel, so it's 8-bit. Even if I was doing HDR, it's 8-bit HDR. And so it's still not the best solution. Now, for all of you comment warriors who are about to go down to the comments and be like, are you sure you're using an HDMI 2.1 cable? This is that's 2 or 3 HDMI cables right there. There are even 2 or 3 that are back behind my computer that are all HDMI 2.1. I've tested them. I even bought a brand new HDMI 2.1 cable specifically for this, rated for it, and all of them give the exact same result. So I can either have 4K 120 with 8-bit HDR with no G-Sync, by the way, and I just have to turn it off for it to work, or 4K 240, can't do HDR, and the color technically is not correct, which is a problem. Now, I could solve all of this, and I've got a 1440p panel over here that's 140 hertz. I could totally do that. I've got this panel right here, which is a 4K 120 hertz panel, which I could do that, and I could probably bypass all of these problems. I'm really just trying to accommodate this really nice monitor I have. However, when you're talking about dual PC streaming, people who are doing this either A, have 2 really crappy PCs performance-wise and they're trying to like use the most out of the one, or they're a person with a really beefy computer and they're wanting to get the max frames in their CSGO match because they're going pro. They want to make sure that they can still hit their, 600 FPS on their 60 hertz monitor and think that they're going to be the next Shroud or whatever. All of that to say, in my specific situation, this monitor issue is one of the things that is going to lead me to the decision that I'll tell you about later in this video. Make sure you stick around for that. All right, with capture figured out and it totally pulls up in OBS and we're able to actually capture everything. It looks great in OBS on the streaming PC. Lovely, works flawlessly, whatever the case. Also for capture, I have to worry about my camera because I do make content. I have to be able to use my camera. So you see the Elgato prompter right here. There's a Sony a6700 with a Sigma 16mm back there that I do run 4K 60. I've got a cooling fan on the back of it. Sure, I could just buy an FX30, but I got a crazy good deal on this A6700. I actually sold my FX30 to downgrade to the A6700, profited all of it, was able to use that profit to buy this camera, the ZV-E10 Mark II, to be able to use as my overhead cam. I know, all that's kind of crazy, but I figure 2 cameras is better than 1 when I'm trying to do what I'm doing. That camera normally goes out to my gaming PC as the 4K Pro. That's the capture card typically that it's being captured to. And I love the quality that I get out of that. Not only do you get multi-app support with the Elgato 4K Pro, it looks crisp, clear, there's XRGB capture, even at 4K 60. It is a lovely capture card and it looks wonderful. And if you've looked at any of my videos in the last year or so, you've been looking at the 4K Pro. So why is the AVerMedia card in this PC now? Well, this is what I've had to do. For me to get my camera, my A6700 to work on this PC for me to use for things and this PC for capture and streaming and things like that, I'm actually using another capture card. Weirdly enough, this is what's going to be controlling our audio and video for my camera. This is the Rode Streamer X, and I personally adore the Rode Streamer X. I've spoke so highly about it when I got it, but this does so much, not only for streaming, but so much for you to be able to do a bunch of customization, a bunch of effects with the pads here. I've got a lot of stuff set up here, and I can't rave enough about the Rode Streamer X. Now, I know that this shot is dark. I've just got this on all auto settings right now, but the Rode Streamer X is responsible for my camera. In right here, the HDMI in is from my camera. That's actually what's coming out of it and going into there. But because this only supports 4K 30 capture, 4K 60 pass through, my main camera actually dropped down to 4K 30. So this is going 4K 30, which captures in this PC. So just to show you that that's working, here is that camera. Hello, hello, hello. It is being captured right here. It is working great. And here is my main computer. You can see that it is working and going on both screens. Great, yay. And it is working. So this is 4K 30 to be able to capture through the Rode Streamer X. By the way, I said earlier that my lights weren't on. This is where I turned them on. But the pass-through is going from the Streamer X all the way to my main PC to the Live Gamer 4K 2.1 PCIe capture card from AVerMedia, being able to still allow my camera to be on my main PC. It's at 4K 30. It's fine. It looks great. Wonderful. Woohoo. Pop off. Yes. Go sis. All that stuff. But now I can have it on both PCs, which is important because I didn't want to have to always use my streaming PC. I just wanted to be able to, if I wanted to game or do a quick stream or do a quick recording, I could just use my main PC. However, if you've ever run a dual PC setup, you'll realize that you can't do that always as efficiently because I'm cloning displays. If my streaming PC is not on, my main PC starts to do like weird things with the camera. It's not that easy. If my streaming PC is not on, then it's not sending the pass-through signal that I need from the HDMI, which means that my clone's not working, which means that my monitor reverts back to doing whatever it wants to do on my main PC, which sounds great and all, but also my Streamer X, which is responsible for audio, won't send over my microphone at the same time. And I've tried so many different variations of this. And so basically to have all of this working, the streaming PC has to be on. So this is also kind of a moot point. I have to have both PCs on, even though I'm trying to set up both to be able to do everything at one time. And again, while this is working, great, love it, pop off, think it's wonderful, it's all because of this device, and we've already talked about it. It's the Rode Streamer X. Now this, on the back of it, has two USBs. One goes to the main PC, which would be your streaming PC, and one goes to the gaming PC, which will carry over it'll carry over the microphone, but it'll also capture any of the sounds from that PC, or it could be your like Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. It'll carry over any of the sounds from that PC and bring it in here so that you can use one headset to be able to monitor everything, which is lovely because you don't want to have to use two headsets. Your microphone goes to both places, so you don't have to run both microphones. Video, you'll be able to actually, turn off. You can see I can actually hide the actual camera that comes in from here, but weirdly enough, it doesn't actually stop the pass-through as I'm hitting that button. You can see me hitting it. It stops it over there, but doesn't stop here, whatever the case. And now what you can see is if you look really close, here is my cursor, right? That is a completely separate PC on this monitor. This is a completely separate PC on this monitor. But how am I moving my mouse in between? Well, that is a software at KVM called Mouse Without Borders, and you can see it's connected to my two computers, DC main and DC second. I will leave a link for this in the description. It works between two Windows computers. I'm not going to click it because there's some security stuff or whatever that pops up, a secret key or whatever. But anyway, you should go look it up if you have two computers and you're trying to travel your mouse in between two Windows computers over your network. It works really well, and this monitor, my Elgato teleprompter, is also connected to the streaming PC, and I can move it in between. It's really nice. The last thing I want to talk about are the Stream Deck Plus. I have one for each computer, one controlling all of the audio and the mixes on my gaming PC, and then one for the streaming PC specifically. And there's Discord stuff, and I also have some hotkeys and things to be able to control different things to switch between PCs, whatever the case. These are important because while this comes with the Unify software, it doesn't work on both PCs. However, I wanted to control the mix on both, one for streaming on the one side and one for my headset from the other, whatever the case. So I have both of these, and now you're starting to see where this kind of becomes an issue. You see, this is where I start having a problem. Now, technically my computer setup before streaming PC was just fine. There are times when I'm playing the game that I love right now, which is New World, where I'll run really high frame rates, and if I'm streaming or recording, I can run into some issues. However, all I gotta do is cap my frame rate, and that's fine. And I thought maybe adding a streaming PC would allow me to just kind of more enjoy the game with higher frames without an issue, which is kind of the premise of why we started this video. But what it really turned out to be was showing me the barrier of entry to doing this on a really well seamless experience, not over the top. We're talking about seamless, where it feels like it's not going to impact your workability, moving your mouse between each things, being able to control your audio, camera on both computers, microphone on both computers. The cost alone and accessories to do this, for what I'm doing, is extreme. You see, in today's market, my graphics card, which is a 4080, is about $1,000, okay? That one graphics card is about $1,000, even on the used market. If you take both Stream Decks, which are, if you buy them new, $200, or maybe let's just go ahead and say $150 each. So let's just say that that's $300, right? The Streamer X is about $250. That's $550 just to get that to be able to control your audio. The 4K Pro, $279. So you're at what, like $800 now, a little over $800. The Live Gamer Ultra 2.1 4K capture card that's in here is over a $200 card. That's $1,000 in accessories before I even consider computer parts, 2 computers, any of that stuff. And if you were to put all of this together, I think it came out to roughly like $4,000. All of this stuff is crazy, and some of the stuff brands have sent me, and not all of it is $4,000 out of my pocket, but a large amount of that is out of my pocket, especially the computer stuff. And so for me to get a 2 PC setup to be able to do what I want to do, I want to capture in 4K, I want to be able to stream in 1080p, I want to be able to have my camera on both computers, my microphone on both computers, and it feel like a seamless experience, it's still an exorbitant cost. And now on my channel, we talk about a bunch of budget ways to be able to do content. This is one of those things that when I embarked on this journey, I was going to make a great video about, look at my 2 PC setup, here's how you set up a dual PC setup. I think it just opened my eyes to the fact that this is just not viable, especially when graphics cards have really good encoders built into them. And if you honestly play the settings that you're supposed to play and not try to over push things, you're going to be just fine. I've done multiple 24-hour streams on a single PC with no issue playing multiple different games, maxing out my GPU and CPU, and never having an issue. And so while I see the argument of, I don't want my stream to go down, I don't want to sacrifice the quality, what if I need to restart my main PC, and all of those arguments that people are going to make about why it's important, I just don't think I can recommend this. And now I have some products that I'm going to review that are specifically for dual streaming that have been sent in, and you're going to hear me talk about it, and I'm going to refer to this video and talk about the benefits and the pros and the cons. And I don't think we've talked about that yet. So let's talk about the pros of dual PC streaming. The pros of dual PC streaming is this: if you have one PC that is controlling everything streaming, it's not doing anything else other than streaming. It could turn off, you could do an update, you could restart it, any of those things, and it's not going to impact your stream. Your stream's going to be uptime as long as that PC is doing what it needs to do, and usually there's no problem with just streaming. It's usually the other things that you start doing on the computer that will impact your stream. The other benefit of dual PC streaming is kind of splitting your resources. By removing streaming from your main PC, your gaming PC, you're freeing up resources to get more performance. So you're going to get things like higher frames. You're not going to have to worry about capping things. You're not gonna have to worry about some of the problems that you have with hardware acceleration, because it's all going through a capture card and not doing something locally software-based to capture. And lastly, it allows you just to keep all the bloat off of your main PC and again, increase performance. And the other pro, which is kind of something that people overlook, is having a second PC is kind of having a backup PC. Let's say that one of them goes down, graphics card, RAM goes, your motherboard goes, whatever the case, you have a second PC that could technically be able to do everything you're doing on the other one, maybe not at the same performance level, but you would still have a computer. And for someone who does content, that is important to be able to have something. Now, I don't think I really have to state the cons, because I think I've mentioned them throughout this video. I think the biggest one here is just the adoption price. This Hertz situation is kind of my own doing. I could probably just use one capture card. I could probably just do my microphone on one of the computers. I could probably make some of my issues not as big, but they're my issues, and from my standpoint, the decision that I'm going to make right now is, when I'm done recording this video, I'm unplugging all of this crap. I'm undoing it all and going back to one PC setup. This just feels so extra when I've been able to do what I can do on one PC. Sure, it's an expensive rig, right? But if I wasn't doing it at 4K and 1440p and I was using like a 3080 instead, or if I was at 1080p using a 3060, yeah, I could totally justify that just fine. And I've done it in the past. Just because I've gotten to this point where I have these things doesn't make me forget that this whole channel started on me doing I was doing it on a gaming laptop when I first started. I don't need to lose sight of the fact that, hey guys, you should do a dual PC setup. Here's this 4K capture card. This is what you need to be able to do that. If you have the computer, to do it and to support it, and you have a console that you want to capture, and you want to do 4K 120 and all of that pass through and capture 4K 60 beautifully, the 4K Pro capture card from Elgato is the best capture card, forward-thinking, future-proofed capture card there is on the market. All right, this vlog I'm going to end, and as I end it, I'm going to show you that I have successfully somehow destroyed my room in the process of this video to not even show you any of the footage that I recorded, because I think it's a moot point. Because does it work? Yes. Does it look any different than the other footage I've done? No. Does it work how I want it to work? Kinda. But it's so excessive and it's so much extra thought, I just can't do it. So I'm tearing this down. Anyway, check out one of these two videos. I love you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.